Fantastic. And we're streaming on Facebook. That's fantastic. Welcome, everybody. There are plenty of people still coming in, as we know, but this is a very important gathering. I haven't seen everybody who's there's 3 people in the waiting room. Tully will let them in as we start. Stefan, very good to see you.
Okay.
I'm going to ask everybody, please, if everybody could please mute themselves for the moment. That would be really nice. Can I ask everybody to mute yourselves? If you can't, that's fantastic. We've lost our echo, which is just as it should be. So thank you, everybody, for joining us at Praying Together in Jerusalem, and also with the Friends in Faith initiative that is part of what the Elijah Interfaith is supporting and talking about. We've been having an amazing series, and I say this from my heart, an amazing series of presentations on upholding the dignity of the human person in times, particularly in times of crisis or conflict. And we've heard from teachers from 6 different religions, and it's been, for those of us in the Holy Land, it has been very important. We've been able to get support and feel the love and the shared interest and the shared humanity. And that's what we're really talking about, is the shared humanity. We entered a new phase of discussion, talking about how we bring these principles that we discovered are common to all of our faiths, about the significance and importance of each individual human person, and about the lack of sanctity that is involved in dehumanizing another person who is created. Either, in most of us, we talk about the divine image or the image of God. We use language like that, but some talk about with a divine spark or a unique spark. And we have learnt that it is not acceptable in any of our faiths to treat a person in that way. And we've talked about how to uphold our respect for the dignity of each human person. And we entered a new phase asking, how do we do it? Asking our teachers, each of our teachers, how do they do it? What are the principles and the practices, what are the practices that they use to support the principles of their faith? Well, I can tell you that our first and main speaker today, Rabbi Awraham Soetendorp, is a person who has made his life around upholding the dignity of each human person. It is, of course, to do with his biography, his experiences as a child that could have made him go in the other direction, having seen the worst of humanity, and not take this road that he's chosen in his life to try and see the best in humanity and work for the best of humanity. He is one of my heroes in that regard, in the way he has taken his life as a survivor of the Shoah and turned it into an opportunity to build bridges, to not blame or in any way hold any grudges, but rather to use this as a transformative life experience. We are so honored that in honor of International Holocaust Commemoration Day, which is in 2 days' time, he's agreed to be our speaker today, and we felt nothing could be more appropriate in terms of talking about upholding the dignity of the human person than to share with somebody who's seen the worst, who've seen people who have had no concept of that, and how he has turned his life and shared. So I'd like to invite Tully, if you wouldn't mind bringing Awraham into the screen with me for a moment. Thank you. His biography has been put in the chat, and I'm going to leave him to speak in just one moment, but I first of all want to thank him for being here. He's here with an injured arm, but here. And I'm going to ask you, Rabbi, first, before we go into the formal discussion, if you wouldn't mind sharing with the group who are here a little bit about your background, your life, your childhood, the experience that I've just alluded to. Tell us your story just a little bit so we know who you are and what you've experienced. Thank you. You're muted. You'll need to unmute yourself. I'm sorry that we can't do that. Tali, once Avraham's unmuted, then I'll leave him alone. No, we need to unmute him. Oh dear. Avraham, we're still muted. Somebody's got to help you. Unmute. Can anybody do that? I can't do it. On your picture, on the top right-hand side of your own picture, your picture of you, if you put your cursor there, it should be a way of unmuting. Tali, is there another way of unmuting? Oh, at the bottom left hand of your screen, Avram. Bottom left hand of your screen, there might be a way of unmuting. Bottom left, below all the pictures, below the pictures. Bottom left-hand side, below the pictures. I don't know what to do. You did unmute when you first came in because you were muted. So you've done it once. We're not hearing you at all. We need you to unmute. Sorry about this, everyone. And I know that Rabbi Soetendorp will do what he can to solve this problem. It's on the screen. You need to put your cursor, bottom left-hand side. I wish I could do it. I wish I could help. Bottom left below the picture, there's a whole lot of white little symbols and pictures and words, and the bottom left will say mute. Yes, it might depend. Stephen, you're right, it might depend, but I can't do anything from here. I wish I could spread my magic powers and do it, but I can't. It has to be done from the computer that Avram's on. Avram, is there no one else there who could help you?
If you do it in the like the picture and so like this, you saw for the picture this. Wait.
Sorry, everybody. Yes, we've said that, Celia, we've said click on the mic icon on the bottom left, but he's not found the icon. Ah, he's done it. He's there. Oh, no, you do. No, you need to do it again. You touched it twice. The same place, but only touch it once. Yay. Don't touch it again.
Yes. Hello?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. So we're going to now, don't mute yourself. So I'm going to now say that I want to, first of all, thank you for being here and ask you to give a little bit of your childhood story, and then
Yes.
we'll come back to the main questions.
Well, thank you. The story that I tell is a story that my father told me just after my bar mitzvah. I think I was not far from 13, but it was 43. And the beginning of harassing Jews and taking them to concentration camps had started. And so also the time had come for us. The doors were broken in, and the Gestapo men, together with Dutch collaborators, entered. And I moved towards a cradle where I was. And the man of the Gestapo looked at me and said in German, Schade, dass ein Jude ist. What a pity that this is a Jewish child. Something happened in his heart. And that's why I'm talking to you now. Because in a moment, an instant, despite all the indoctrination that he received, he started to create space of liberation. He slapped my father, he shouted and screamed and said, "You are so dirty, all of you. We can't touch you now. We'll come back tomorrow morning." That way, his collaborators could not find out what he really tried to do. And so that night, we escaped. I will never forget the impact that whatever indoctrination is and whatever darkness, there is always a return to compassion. And then in another part of Amsterdam, there was a young woman who already earned her PhD at an early age and had put all these studies aside and started a resistance work in trying to find places for Jews, especially children, to be able to hide. And through contact with her, which my father was able to do, I was taken in a carriage. My mother looked and thought this was the last time she saw me. And then they took me to Arnhem. And in Arnhem, after a day or two, there were people who started to speak about maybe a Jewish child. I was 3 months old and I was circumcised because my father had said, "You can take everything from a person, what he has, even his clothes, but you cannot take from him what he is." And therefore the circumcision was a affirmation of the Jewish identity. But now I was in danger. And so they decided to smuggle me out of that house. And so I came with another person who carried me in a suitcase with holes in it. And there I came in Velp, nearby. And the door was opened by a woman who was German-born, but who had stipulated that she wanted to help Jewish children. And the question was, will you take care of this child? And then they had to think quickly because already there was a girl of 11 and they couldn't have a baby and a person of 11 in hiding. And so they decided to have the other girl removed to another place of resistance. And I was saved. And another girl came later on who was a year older than I. But the story was not over. Because that may be the most difficult thing to share. When the war seemed to be over, 2 days before liberation, there was other fighting taking place in and outside of Velp, and the last German soldiers were fighting back. And so there were grenades. And my foster father, who always cared for others, went out of the cellar where we all were hiding. And I would try to have the first breath outside. I had not been outside. I crawled behind my father, and then he must have heard the shrieking of the grenade, and he did not hesitate and guarded me with his body. I was safe, and he died. His grave has now a special note, how he gave life to save life, somewhere in a cemetery nearby the place where it happened. And then a few months later, the miracle happened. And my parents, who had been hiding in different places and were in danger in different times, had survived the war. And a few weeks after liberation, somehow my father found my name in a list. My name was then Bobby van der Kemp. My real name was Awraham, because my grandfather was Awraham. But my first name, my father had said to the member of the registration office when I had been born, my father insisted that my name would be Shalom. And when the man of the registry office said, don't give him a Jewish name, not now, my father said, he will be called Shalom, because Shalom there will be. This is my heritage. I was reunited with my parents. And very soon we went to Israel in 1948. By that time, I had already 2 brothers, very small. And when we arrived in the first day, there was bombing and we had to take shelter. And I remember 5 years old standing at the bedside of my mother, who hadn't come out of the bed and didn't try to dress herself. And my father said, Miriam, we have to go to the shelter. And my mother said, I am now in Israel and I'm safe. I don't have to run away anymore. And that is Israel. And that is the tragedy of this moment. Because the safety of Israel is the safety not only of the Jewish people. It is in fact the safety of humanity. And therefore, with my Palestinian brothers and sisters, who have all the right in the world to live in a safe and a happy place, we are bound together to find a way to peace. Yes, it has become the center of my life. And I have been so privileged to be able to work with people from different faiths. Because very early, in the example of my father who rebuilt the synagogue, I knew that we are from different faiths and different spiritual traditions, but we have the same destiny and the same purpose to establish peace and justice. And we cannot achieve it without the desperate support of others. And so in my path, I was able to restore an old building where we started to restore that synagogue in The Hague, in the heart of The Hague. In 1968, the dream started. In 1976, we were able to establish the synagogue again and reopen it. And so in 2 years' time, God willing, we will celebrate its 300th anniversary. And I have fought with others for the dignity and freedom of people. In 1 year, we were able to gather, and that was 82, 83. We were able to gather 1 million signatures for Soviet Jews who wanted their freedom. 1 million signatures in 1 month, because there was a continued support from all quarters. And when this history has been written just a year ago, the question asked me, how were you able to lead this fight? I didn't have to answer. It was my beginnings and the struggle. I've been in many, yeah.
Rabbi, I want to go back to the beginning of the story you shared with us. I want to ask you about those step-parents, the stepfather who gave his life to protect you, and the stepmother who must have been a remarkable woman as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about who they were?
Yes, they were both piously Catholics. The story that I heard later on is that my foster mother, who, as I said, was born German, when in around 42, 43, she went to church meetings every Sunday, and then suddenly at the end of a service, she cried out, could you give me addresses? Could you give me links? I want to save Jewish children. And of course, she had to be silenced because it was dangerous to speak that way. And when my foster father was killed, according to the woman from resistance who told me this just before her own death, she said, it's devastating, but I'm so proud that we were able to save him, to save her. And she died, had remarried. She had lived to an old age. And, you know, my parents, who had been saved by a farmer at one point, the farmer was Protestant. And because he was Protestant in Catholic environment, they called him the dirty farmer. You know, it's so strange how prejudices are around, and at the same time, how faith gives people this courage to be a leader. And actually what we see that in Philip, that is in a village, that relatively many Jewish children and others have been saved in that place. And what is the reason that in some places, you know, in Holland, out of 140,000 Jews, over 105,000 had been killed, had been taken. How is it that in some places there was resistance, in others there wasn't? And the answer is given that they call it now, it became an enabling community. There were some leaders in resistance, and they had such an influence that it was like a strengthening. You know, as someone else has written about another resistance fighter, he said, you know, evil is contagious, but thank God, goodness is also contagious. So not only were their foster parents in themselves heroes, but they gave this contagiousness of goodness to others.
And you've also then indicated that in a society where you've got the vast majority who are good, they can create that atmosphere of good. It reminds us, of course, of the story of Abraham, your namesake, and Sodom and Gomorrah. Just find 10 good people. That will be enough to be able to influence or radiate out goodness. And yes.
Yes, you talk about the Abraham story, and there's something about that Abraham fought, struggled with God when he was told that Sodom and Gomorrah were going to be destroyed. And he said, well, if there were 50 just people, and then God said, I will save the people. And then he said, if there were 45, and he said, yes, I will save the people. And then 40, 30, 20, 10. But what is also the moral of the story is 5. A difference of 5. What is the difference of 5? That's 5. It's one hand. One hand makes the difference. A hand that is stretched out or becomes a clenched hand of hostility. That is the difference between goodness and evil.
It's a beautiful parable, the idea of the outstretched hand or the grabbing or the fist that's being made. Rabbi, in your interfaith work, you committed yourself to interfaith work from a very early age, and it's been a huge part of your life. Was there a moment where you were particularly touched or moved about the common humanity of people of different faiths? Can you share some of your experiences or key moments with us?
Well, there were many. In one way, I could say that in meeting people who belong to another spiritual tradition, I have been more moved at many times than I've been moved by people in my own faith. It is remarkable to see it. And when I remember, in particular in this moment, also in meeting a Palestinian woman, a young woman, who didn't know me. She only saw my kippah and that knew that I was Jewish. It was in a conference of Women for Peace. The moment she saw me and she broke the silence, she said, "You betrayed truth." And I was so shocked. I who have done so much. And suddenly I said to myself, why are you talking about what you did? It's unimportant. Listen to her. So I listened to her. And she said, well, Arafat was betrayed. And I thought, how can you say that we betrayed him? Didn't he betray also us? And again, I said, be silent. And I was silent. And she said, yes, and I came to Tel Aviv, to the airport, and I was searched over my body as if I was a terrorist. I'm human. And then I thought, I want to give her a hand. And I asked my mother of blessed memory, can I give a woman who shouts at me, can I give her a hand? And my mother said, don't be difficult. Do what your heart tells you. And I stretched my hand out and she touched it with my fingers. And we became friends for life. And therefore, when a few months ago, end of October, I was on a television program where they asked how there can be nearness. And I was together with an imam for the young people, and he was sitting opposite me. And I said, if this only could be a home, a room where we sit together, I look in your eyes, I find we are brothers, and I stretched out my hand as my mother had told me, and we shook our hand. And that symbol has been in Holland for the last few months, again and again, the most simple sign of nearness, of hope, beyond discussions, the feeling. And I have seen tears in eyes of people from different faiths, reflection of my own tears. And I've seen joy, sudden joy, the impossible dream. You know, when I was with the Earth Charter, which was in the 90s, and we drew together with people from not only different faiths, but also from different faith texts. There is one text at the beginning which is so simple, but it says, to move forward, we must realize that in the magnificent diversity of spiritual traditions, cultures, there is, and we are, one earth community, one human family. And that simplicity I've seen reflected in meetings and actions all over. And what is difficult for me is we are human, also in our interfaith connections, and we sometimes miss the excitement of being a majority in the world, of people who are excited personally by a source of divinity in different names, in different stages, in different modes, and that everything is possible. You know, to hear a Muslim leader years and years ago, it was somewhere near Russia where we were together, and a Muslim, an imam, came forward. It was in Konya, in Turkey. And he said, I want to say something to my brother. Those who take bombs and explode devastation in the streets of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv are acting against the spirit and the fact of the Quran. And I want to ask you, continue your struggle for peace, strengthen it, and together we may bring light. I was in complete disbelief. How does Imam come at this moment in Turkey to say this? But it was the spontaneous action. So these are signs of encouragement, which fortunately I find again and again with young people. You know, at a school, all those years ago, I was told by a student, she said, Rabbi, you say that you were lucky to survive, but it was not luck. God wanted you to survive and to share with us the story. And I knew I have to give an answer. This is not true. It's not me. And so I said, God wanted every child to survive. I had the luck to fall in the hands of people who understood this.
Wow, that's a very powerful affirmation, first of all, of those people who did it. And it means that people are responsible for bringing good into this world. And people, unfortunately, are also responsible for the evil that comes into this world. Rabbi, what do you say to and about those people, not the ones who do the good, who say the good things? What message do you bring? Can you turn people around? Where does this evil come from? What do you have to say about that?
Well, first of all, we make mistake of grudge over centuries and generations. And just a year ago, I was at a commemoration place in The Hague. In that place, a simple woman had saved 10th of resistance fighters and Jews who came to hide. And there was a razzia, and 21 were taken and killed. And in the commemoration, there were students, and suddenly, before I came to speak, I was told that the grandchildren of Koch, the Nazi head who perpetuating this terrible feat, that the granddaughters from Germany had contacted them and had made a journey to be there. And I was pointed out that where they were, and I walked towards them. And when I came near to them, I saw the tears of fear in their eyes. And I realized the distance between hatred and reconciliation is as thin and short as an embrace. And I embraced them, and they embraced me, and we cried over each other's shoulders. And that heroism of the grandchildren. And it is possible. When hatred comes, it has all kind of causes. But the most important place where they can learn to love is the schoolroom. It can be for children and students. And so I was able, together with many others, to establish first a day of respect, and now it's a week of respect, a year of respect. And there are 600 children every year who are reached by our educational programs. And you see, when in school, one is able to make mistakes, to say bad things, and then to be told and taught how pernicious it is. There is a beginning of a sense of compassion. And I have also started to introduce the term compassionate competition, because what happens in our lives, in our business lives and political lives, there is competition. It is what makes us alive. If you have compassionate competition, you are able to bring the best in yourself, because it is sharpened and strengthened by the best of the other. And Baruch Spinoza, a Jew who was banished from his own community in the 17th century in the Ethics, he says something very simple. When a human being tries to achieve his luck, his self-interest with reason, he will naturally try to achieve the self-interest of the other. And there is such a key in that 17th century brilliant mind, the sensitivity that it is in your own self-interest to try to put yourself in the self-interest of the other, and thus become noble, as Baruch Spinoza has said. And when I meet children and young people, only a few months ago, a new group has been started in Holland, of young people, and they say to me, but our cri de coeur, our shout from the heart is that nobody listens to us. Who are we? 30-year-olds. And I say, well, I will bring you cri de coeur wherever I can. And I have now a dream for years. And the dream is impossible, of course, but it is in the impossibility, a possibility. We have the Security Council. What we need is a council of conscience. And a council of conscience can start in every school, in every firm, in every place where people come together, not in the interest of the organization of the school, but in the freedom they have of together to listen to conscience and then to advise. In Deuteronomy, it says that every king has to have a Torah with him, a text that he studies. Well, the Council of Conscience could be the group of people who, without the interest of the state or anything else, but only the interest of conscience, can be that living book that is looked at by political leaders and others, because they know it is only done out of conscience. So yes, there is a road to change evil ways into productive, compassionate ways.
Wow. And reaching children at that age. It's amazing. Thank you so much. I really don't want to let you go from my own questions and conversation with you, but I do want to give other people here in the group the opportunity to ask a question or respond, make a comment to which you might want to respond. So if anybody would like to join the conversation now, please indicate by using the hand signal or just unmuting and joining, and Tully will find you. Somebody who'd like to join? So while people are thinking about their questions and their comments. Yes, thank you. Who's that?
Jean,
I'm sorry, the sound is very poor. Tully, can you find
Jean is raising her hand.
Jean is raising her hand. Tully, could you please find Jean?
Okay. You can see me? Right.
Yes, we're going to spotlight you as well. Very good. Jean, what would you like to say or ask?
I don't know how to say it. It's amazing. Rabbi, I was also born in 1943 in England, June 1943. My mother was Jewish, but given the situation in the world and in England at that time, she never spoke about it. I didn't discover it until I heard from a shopkeeper she used to go to. And I was in the process then. Even though she was Jewish and she never came to church, she always made sure my brother and I went to the Anglican church. She brought us up, she got us baptized. My father never had any interest in religion, so he left it to her to look after. And then I was in the process when I was 16 of changing to the Catholic Church. And I was in the shop, and the man who was going to be my godfather was saying about me to the shopkeeper. And the shopkeeper said, "Oh, changing your faith must run in your family." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Your mother's Jewish." And I was blown away because I had never, ever heard her speak. She never went to any religious meeting, as far as I know. The only thing that dawned on me was that she had these old, 45 records where you put on the thing and, well, we didn't have to wind it up, but and they were Jewish songs. And I remember my brother and I breaking one of these records, and she was heartbroken. And I didn't know why she was, because we were young then, and I didn't know why she was so upset. But it's in my heart to see how we can join and become one. And my own story was that later, when I was 21, I became a Franciscan sister. And at the moment, I'm in, and have been for many years, in Zambia, where again, we have another issue of differences. Trying to, in my community, we are only three, one from England, one from Zambia, one from Zimbabwe.
Wow.
And loving each other and sharing our differences and understanding each other, how our culture has made us what we are, and trying to love and accept differences in that regard. So I just thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean, also for sharing, because we're learning more and more. But one thing is that you shared with Rabbi Awraham's story is the idea of the environment, creating an environment, creating a community where love is so important. And thank you for sharing. I'm going to ask Stephen to join the conversation now. Rabbi, we'll hear from you after we've heard the comments. Stephen, if you could turn on your camera, please. and then Tully will be able to highlight you. You need to turn on your camera and turn on your microphone. Otherwise, we won't be able to hear you or see you. Stephen, are you going to do this? If not,
I'm trying.
good. We can hear you at least. So please,
Oh,
Stephen.
here we go.
There we go. Now Tully can
There you go.
continue. There you go. What would you like to say to us?
Well, first of all, thank you for this amazing program. And I'm sending Rabbi Soetendorp an email because my late uncle Bob Booth and my Aunt Shelley spoke of him for decades about their time in The Hague and their great love for him. And it's wonderful to hear you. And I'm a rabbi in Denver, Colorado, and I organize faith leaders here. So I'm looking forward to being more in touch. So I'm curious from what you were saying, Rabbi Soetendorp, from your experience across faiths and cultures, what might you say to Jewish Israelis and other Jews who are in so much fear of the other right now, for good reason in some cases? What would you say to them to give them some comfort and some hope for something different?
Well, first of all, it's amazing to meet you, because Booth were such good friends, and we shared so much. So it's amazing to see you and to have contact now. I would say, trying to very simply, Atikva lamrot hakol, hope despite everything. There is no other path. We actually, if I think just across barriers, I'm thinking of an American young woman, Amanda Gorman, who spoke at the inauguration of Biden. And maybe we have forgotten her words, but they touched me. At the end, she says, "For there is always light if we only dare to see it, if we only dare to be it." And there is a combination in this youthful expression about light and what is, of course, in Judaism always that spark of light that is everywhere. And by deeds of courage and deeds of not giving up and deeds of love despite fear, that is able to bring about a change. And there's one favorite story in the Talmud. If I tell it very shortly, there's a man standing in a city, and the man is, his voice is not very strong. He is old, he has gray hair, and he's stooped, and he asked the people in the city, improve your ways, do the good. And then a young man stands there and says, "Can I tell you something? When I was not yet born, my father, when he was still very young, he was also seeing you standing there already. You were a young man and you had black hair. And I see you. And in all those years, nobody has stopped to listen to you. Why do you continue?" And the man said, yes, I have been with my black hair, and were times that I thought to myself, there's nothing that can move this evil city, nothing. But you know why I continued? Because when I realized that maybe nobody would listen to me, I had to bring all the power in me to continue So that if I cannot change the city will never change me. And the desperation of hope and the hopefulness of despair will eventually open the doors and make peace.
Well, I remember, and Rabbi, you'll remember as well, that just a few years ago, the Elijah Interfaith Institute did a series on hope, because as Rabbi Alon Goshen-Gostein, Alon, who's on this call somewhere, said, that hope is something that all religious traditions have in common. All religious traditions offer visions of hope. That is at the essence, I think, of a religious belief or commitment is hope. And thank you for that wonderful story, and thank you, Stephen, for your
and Rabbi Soetendorp just wants you to see the painting behind me. That's one of my Uncle Bob's Holocaust paintings. Can you see it?
I can see it, and you know.
Unfortunately, this is a telephone, so it's not a great thing.
It's very small, but
it's amazing, because they were there when we restored the synagogue, and he made also a painting then. It's so amazing.
Thank you. Oh, that's slightly clearer. Yes, thank you. Father, now excuse my Polish, my non-existent Polish, even though my 4 of my grandparents were originally Polish, but Father Wiesław, am I saying it correctly?
Very good.
Oh, well done. Thank you. I'd like to invite you, please, to join us.
Sorry for joining you so late, but I am in in another monastery in Krakow, and there was some problems with the internet, so it was only now that I can join you.
Thank you. Tony, could you?
I am a guest here. I'm a guest in this house, although it used to be my maternal house. I wanted to thank to Rabbi Alon Goshen-Gottstein, my friend from many years, for inviting me to join this wonderful meeting.
So although you didn't hear much of what Rabbi Soetendorp had to say, I know you know something of his story, and you certainly know something of the Shoah. And he spoke to us about the dignity, in fact, bravery, courage, amazing story of those who saved him, and the impact that the whole story has had on his life. The sense of, I think, Avraham, it's fair to say, the sense of gratitude, the sense of appreciation, of the bravery and the ability of good human beings to stand up to evil. And he's given us a very strong message. I wonder whether, Wiesław, you'd like to share your thoughts and response, and then perhaps offer a prayer.
Yes, I have listened very carefully to Rabbi's remarks on hope. And it was only yesterday that I followed a podcast by one of Polish journalists with some with a former chief of Sinn Bet, and he wrote a book, if I am not mistaken. It's called Friendly Fire. It's in Hebrew and in English. And one of his statements, sorry for not recalling well the name of the author of the book. One of his statements was, this book tells a lot of his experience with terrorism and with facing people's stories behind terrorism. And his point was that there is something that we cannot, there is a non-win situation when we are facing a person who has no hope. Because if there is a person who has a hope for life, that person is always a subject for a common platform of dialogue. And that person possibly can transform his or her outlook on life and the vision of another person. And Rabbi Awraham, what you have said about hope, and Peta Jones, what you have said that this is common for all religions, I think just playing this off the cuff, I think it's very crucial that we, people of different religion traditions, as long as we are able to point out this element of hope in the life of the other, then we can win and we can save so many lives, but we can save so much in the world. We are not destined to fight one another. So I think this is what you have just said. This element of hope. It's even common for the people who do not follow religion traditions, but they declare themselves as non-believers. But everyone has down deep in their heart this desire of having a worthy life. And pointing out that there we can build up this level of hope together. This can be something promising. I am reading now a book. I want to point this book to you. It's a very interesting book. It is a history of a knotted thread. It's written by a Polish Benedictine monk, but on the basis of the testimony of Sister Paula. Those who live in Jerusalem know very well she was a Benedictine nun, converted from Judaism to Catholicism. And for her, the something that allowed her to survive Shoah, but then to survive in monastery, in a Catholic monastery, was the hope that she could, within her Jewish soul, find her own dignity in a new religious context that she has chosen for herself out of the experience. So I think as long as we can not only share these stories, but we can really point out that our religious traditions must give hope to people today. We are people of not only of goodwill, but we are people of good tidings. Okay, so this is how I would respond to this message of hope from Rabbi Awraham. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you like to offer a prayer to us now?
Sure. Just give me a moment of collecting my minds. Let us open up, all of us, for the presence of God within us. God, who is the Father of all the humankind, is God whose desire was always that the humankind will be in unity, that the mankind and womankind will be always in unity. And we ask you, God, the creator of humankind, that you will be continuously opening up all the people this desire for building in us the unity and the hope that that unity of humankind can be achieved one day by your will. We acknowledge in you, O God, that you are the Father of all of us. Allow us to experience by your fatherhood this gift of hope that you have dispersed that you have given in our life, that you have poured out into our lives, into our hearts, and into our minds. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awraham, you can't stay through till the end of the session, so although you were going to give the final prayer, I'd like to invite you to share a prayer with us now, please.
With words from Psalm 23. Gam ki elech begeit salmavet lo irara. Even though I go to the valley where breath has been taken away, I will not fear, because you are with me. Yizkor may be remembered. My dear foster parents, Ria van de Kemp and Bertus van de Kemp, and all those who stood in fire to rescue and to save lives of Jews, of human beings. May the Almighty One safeguard my parents, Miriam and Yaakov, and all those who bring up children in hope that there is continuation of life. May you who are merciful safeguard the lives of Palestinians and Israelis, of every innocent person, and create through your ever-enduring love and our unbroken faith and hope and potential for action, may be created a path to peace, to restoration, to forgiveness, to the eternity of brotherhood and sisterhood. Very near with the times of the Mashiach, the Nomar. Amen.
Amen. Wow, this message of hope has been so powerful today. I want to thank you. Thank you for bringing that message of hope to us. And it reminded me also that Valdia, who's here, I saw her come into the room, spoke about the hopes of the mothers in Gaza as well. And I think that what you've just said, Rabbi, asking for hope for everyone, that it's such a powerful and important message. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for your prayer. Thank you, Father Wiesław, also. And now we're going to move to one of our regular...
I just wanted to say, in the words of Isaiah, Shalom, Shalom, larachok v'lakarov. Peace, peace to those who are far away and nearby. Shalom.
Thank you.
Shalom.
Shalom. Erica has been offered us beautiful Christian prayers over in many sessions, and she's agreed to offer another prayer today. We're having Roman Catholic and other. So Erica, would you like to join us? Thank you.
Hi, yes. I feel like maybe I'm superfluous but with all of this, but I will offer again an ecumenical prayer from Taizé, which is actually the words of a Catholic nun from the 16th century. And I will offer this also in honor of all of those who Rabbi Awraham described, that courage, that may we honor that courage of those who risked their own lives to save others, and may we pray for the courage of those today who are in similar dangers. I'll sing it 3 times. Nada te turbe, nada te espante, quien a Dios tiene, nada te turbe, nada te espante, solo Dios basta. Nada te turbe, nada te espante, quien a Dios tiene, nada te turbe, nada te espante, solo Dios basta. Nada te turbe, nada te espante, quien a Dios tiene, nada te turbe, nada te espante, solo Dios basta.
Thank you so much.
We do need a translation in a context.
It's not in the chat.
It's in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. It's so powerful and so beautiful, and you add that musical element, that music is a form of, it's an enhancement of prayer, but in and of itself, it's a form of prayer. And the melody, you know, in Hasidic life, there's a wonderful story about when we no longer know the words, and we no longer know the place, and we no longer know how to do it, but the melody lingers. And you have brought us a very beautiful melody that will, I think, form the background to our thinking about all of this for the next few hours, days, or weeks. Thank you, Erica.
Welcome. Thank you.
It's now my pleasure to invite Swamini, and I never attempt to say her full name. Alon will laugh because he knows I struggle with the Indian names. But Swamini is very gracious to, I can do the Saraswati bit, very gracious to be often part of Elijah's events. She has been an important part of the Elijah family, coming in a few years ago and adding her unique dimension. Again, we talked about hope. one of the things that Swamini has shared with us over the many weeks and years that we've been associated has been messages of hope. And she is going to lead us in a prayer stroke meditation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I feel so full of joy to see your faces in these troubling times. I'm not going to lead you through a meditation. I'm going to give you some tools, which I hope that you, if you so wish, might give to other people who might need these tools for times of trauma, for times of sorrow, to help us get through a little bit. It's so hard right now. Oh, these are some grounding tools, and I'll just take you through a few of them, and you don't need to close your eyes. For just a moment or two, just a few moments, just feel your hands. Just feel your hands, the palms. You might feel a little bit of tingling. Your thumbs, your fingers, one by one. You can even move them a little bit. Now, feel where you're seated, holding you to this earth, the force of gravity. Just breathe in a little bit and just feel yourself being held by this earth. And when you're ready, feel the bottoms of your feet. They say that our feet do not have trauma on the bottom of our feet. We might feel trauma in other places, but not the bottom of our feet. So just concentrate there. Breathe in and let yourself relax. Just bring your awareness to the bottom of your feet and let your thoughts go. Now, when the mind becomes so troubled you can't get rid of those thoughts, there's some other tools that I'll share with you. This is called the 4 things method. Right now, listen for 4 things that you can hear. It might be inside, outside. Now, what you smell, just concentrate. Now looking around you, what are 4 things that are white? What are 4 things that are blue? Just look around. And come back to presence. What are 4 things that you feel right now? Whenever you are in pain or in suffering, whenever it feels overwhelming to yourself or anyone around you, feel free to use these techniques to override the limbic system of our mind that keeps on repeating the story and the fear and the sorrow. Feel free to teach this to all who may need it, or give it as a gift if the need arises. May you be peacemakers for our world. May the love of your hearts shine for eternity. I bow to you all.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much. I wonder, Tully, whether you would mind going to gallery view, and let's see everybody who's here now on this group. In this group. Move my spotlight. That's what we need to do. Move the spotlight. I need to do it too. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Swamini, for the final meditation. Thank you, Erica, for your beautiful voice. Thank you for our two guests who are no longer able to stay with us, but have given us such richness. Hearing Rabbi Awraham's story, for me, not the first time. And I want to thank also the people who came in with their questions and comments. It adds great meaning to hear from others in the group as well. So thank you so much, Jean and Rabbi, for joining us, Stephen, for joining us there as well. We are so grateful to be together. Again, I look at the diversity of faces. We know we're from around the globe. We know that we're from across faiths. Good to see Talib. I know he came in when he could, and good to see Maureen here and others to whom I have not yet said hello. Thank you for being part of this. Let us take one moment in silence together to just appreciate each other, appreciate being here. Let's just take a minute to think how blessed we are and to wish the same blessings that we have on everyone else in this world, particularly those who are in places of conflict and illness and oppression. Let's give them 1 minute of our time. Thank you. While we were giving that moment together, a question was asked in the chat about the word Shoah, the meaning. Shoah means a disaster, a catastrophe, that it is a word now used to describe the attempted genocide of the Jews between, we can debate when it started, whether it was 1936, 1939, or 1942, but thank God it ended in 1945. And that was a time where 6 million Jews were murdered by Nazis and their supporters. There is a big debate in Israel, and I think in other parts of the world as well, whether we can use the word Holocaust or Shoah for any other catastrophe or any other attempted genocide. It is a debate. Certainly the Shoah, the Holocaust of the Jews, was unprecedented then and has not, thank God, been matched, both in terms of its extent and its planning and deliberate co-option of an entire population to wipe out an entire other population. So that's the meaning of the word and the concept. And it's only been a few years since the United Nations decided to have an official Holocaust Commemoration Day, which was based around on the date of the liberation of the Auschwitz camp, which was the camp where more people, I think it's 1.5 million, I might be wrong, where people were eliminated in one place than any other place. And when that camp was liberated, that's the date around which this date was fixed. But the day is used. I remember when I was a child and we said never again, we said there should never be another genocide. And then there were so many genocides, Biafra, and what happened in the former Yugoslavia. And, you know, unfortunately, the world has not learned the lessons of the Shoah, but it's something that we together pray for, that we can learn, that we can change, that we can have a world where nobody wishes the elimination, as Rabbi of any other peoples, as Rabbi Awraham said, the prayer should be that we can appreciate how much we benefit from people who are different from ourselves, how important it is for us to grow and learn from others, from people who bring a different spiritual insight, a different aspect of divine revelation into our lives. We all have divine revelation. And if we could only share, there's a beautiful midrash, which many of you have heard. In fact, I think I heard Snurslav actually say this midrash once, about when God was creating the world and the angels were arguing about whether it was a good idea to create human beings or not. You know, the rabbis in the midrash, I call the midrash a rabbinic speculation. They wanted what was going on in the heavens when God said, let us make humans in our image, and the angels, some of them said, no, it's not a good idea, don't do it. Why not do it? Because humans, and there were many things humans are not, and one of them is they're not truthful. Humans don't tell the truth. So God took truth, this is the midrash says, and threw it to the ground, and it shattered into pieces. And one of the ways of interpreting that midrash is that truth used to be, well, complete truth is only in the heavenly realm, but truth on earth is shattered into pieces. And the best that we can possibly hope to do is have a little bit of truth. We will never have the entire truth, but the more truths we hear, the closer we are to understanding something of divine truth. So we benefit and learn from the other who has access to a different element of truth than what we have access to. And I think that is one of the beautiful messages that Awraham brought to us today, is how much we can benefit from our association with each other. And just looking at the screen, and I can't see all of you on one screen, but I can see people from whom I've learned from different faiths, different places. And I want to thank you for contributing